Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Charlie Paparelli Show. I'm Charlie Paparelli. I'm also an angel investor and have been for the last 25 years. In fact, I've been a professional angel investor. That's what I've done for my occupation. I have made 35 investments, and a handful of them did pretty well, and I came right along with them. But what I'm all about is really helping entrepreneurs achieve their dream of starting, owning, and building their own company. I've been a very early stage investor, either pre-seed or just a first seed level investor. And that gave me an opportunity to work alongside these entrepreneurs to get these companies out of the ground. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great career. And I've made a great network. I have a great network of entrepreneurs that have taught me how to do startups. I've contributed, but they've contributed. It's mostly their contributions that make it all work. So what this show is all about is entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. So I invite the teachers of startups who are the entrepreneurs that I know to just basically tell their stories. And I share my experience. And our goal here is to make you, our audience member, a better entrepreneur, better at not only starting a company, but building it into a successful company that one day maybe will even exit. And I'd appreciate you helping build our community here by subscribing to the Charlie Paparelli Show at paparelli.com. Just submit your email and you'll never miss a show. My guest today is a good friend of mine and somebody that I've worked with for pretty near on 20 years. And his name is Gregg Hinthorn. Gregg Hinthorn is the founder of Hinthorn Publishing. I met Gregg during the .com era, who was introduced to me by an entrepreneur whom I invested in. And since that time, Gregg has sort of helped me grow a bit. There was something I always wanted to do, which was to write. And Gregg got me into writing as I was writing for a publication here in Atlanta. And he was my writing coach and my editor. And then we've stayed together. And back in 2015, in December, God gave me this sort of message that said, you need to start a blog. Well, the first person that I called was Gregg, because I know that if I was working with Gregg, it would become a reality. So everything you see at paparelli.com, my websites and everything else, it all comes from Gregg. He's been a great help and a great partner in it. And today we're going to be talking to Gregg about his social media experience and how he became a TikTok sensation in the learning area with close to 450,000 followers. It's an amazing story. I think it amazed me, but I think it amazed him too. So, Gregg, welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us.
Thanks, Charlie. It's, it seems like it was just yesterday when I first posted on TikTok, and it was actually January 2022, pre-COVID, the first time I posted.
In January 22nd?
Of last year. Yep.
That was it. Okay. I remember talking to you, and you didn't even tell me that you did it, and I'm just, but I do remember you telling me a story about how surprised you were when you started to do this thing. What was the surprise for you?
Well, the surprise was that my goal had been to try out this new platform. And I had thought about it for a long time. I was like, this is interesting. I like dipping into new platforms and especially social media stuff and getting my feet wet. But I didn't know what to post because I wasn't a frequent poster. And Candace, my girlfriend, said, well, why don't you simply post about the kind of information you've been giving Charlie all these years? And so with that came the first post, and that led to another post and another post. And I think I'm up to something like 500 posts now.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know that you've been recognized. You've become so successful. You've been recognized by TikTok, which is really pretty incredible. But I'm wondering, how is it like what you said, I'm interested in social media thing. Was there some reason for you to do this out of just as opposed to just pure curiosity?
Well, yeah, there is actually. I had someone say to me, "You're too old. You don't understand social media." And inside, I was like, Yes, I do." And so that was sort of the impetus that led me to wanting to decide I want to actually start posting instead of. And anytime a platform is new like that is always a great time because you don't have to worry about friends and family being being online.
Well,
So it's like
TikTok has sort of a shady reputation. That's the way it's been cast in the news, at least. That they're stealing data and all that. It's really a Chinese-run company. And then Trump said, they're not going to be able to operate in the United States anymore. Why TikTok? Why was that? Why did you choose TikTok? Why didn't you do Instagram or some of the other platforms that are out there?
So that's a great question. When Instagram first started, I jumped on Instagram and started taking architectural pictures, pictures of doors, and it my account grew to like 1,500. But the problem was is that in Atlanta, Georgia, you run out of doors to take pictures of. So I enjoyed the interaction in the community, and I had told myself anytime that there was a new platform started that I would wanted to jump on it and build a community because I knew that I enjoy the engagement, and it really is all about the engagement.
Well, I know that your mission is that you help people of influence tell their story, and that you've certainly done that for me, and I appreciate it. You've really helped me a great deal. But
Thanks.
how did that play into? How does your mission play into this stepping into this social media platform, TikTok?
It's interesting. Everyone thoroughly believe everyone has a story to tell. Like Harvey Mackay said, very few people have two. So, what I realized is that Peter Drucker, in one of his books, says the most important thing that you can know about yourself is how you process information. And I know I process information by talking. So I thought, well, you know what? If I can talk and give that information to people and help them tell their story, then it'll be something I enjoy.
Yeah, but when I looked at your TikTok, I was
Mm.
surprised. It didn't seem to have it's not I can't draw a straight line and say, oh, what you just said and what you're doing on TikTok match up completely. That it doesn't. It's sort of light-hearted, sort of almost like you're in character giving them word advice. I mean, how do you even come up with that that idea? Where did that come
Yeah,
from? Because you sit
well,
there. We talked about this. You say, okay, you're going to get on TikTok, and you say, like, well, what's going to make me unique?
and you
What's
know
going
what?
to be
That's a
my
great.
angle, right? Why will people join
Yeah,
this community? So,
yeah. You know what? When I first started to post, um, it's interesting how things evolve. So it started out with me giving writing advice, the same kind of writing advice that I gave you, and over the years, and talking about writing, and through that, um, I just happened onto, and I got up to about 5,000 followers within about 30 days. But it wasn't; it was just incremental, a few hundred here and there. And then I did one about grammar. Unknowingly to me, this was makes sense now, but grammar is a big deal on TikTok. And suddenly I woke up, posted on a Wednesday, woke up the next morning with 22,000 followers.
wait a
And
sec. How did you know that grammar was a big deal on TikTok?
I did not know it before I posted it. I've
Oh, you
learned
didn't.
now that it is.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you
it was,
stumbled into this,
I totally stumbled into it.
and you went
And
from 5,000 followers, which took you only 30 days.
yeah, about 30 days, but it was like, a few every,
Well, what were you
it
doing
was,
though? That in that 30 days. I mean, how did you sort of enter the platform? What was your plan? Like what
you and I,
content were you contributing, you see?
you had a friend die, and I did my first TikTok, I believe, talking about the importance of remembering friends by writing their story. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
So that was my first. That was my first one. And I think it got like 100 views, 150 views,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, well, that's kind of fun. I think I might be able to do another one of those. So they were all story related. Suddenly we have grammar jumps in as a big deal. That was good.
Yeah,
And
but
then I
grammar jumped
slowly,
in. You're sharing this content or telling stories. How frequently were you doing that?
I was probably doing it probably 4 times a week at that point, three
So
or
you
four
were
times a
posting
week.
4 times a week, this sort of how to tell your story. And then you
Yeah.
decided after and getting into the next 30 days, the
Yep.
second 30 days is to say, I'm going to try this grammar thing. Why did you decide to try this grammar thing?
There's a book by Strunk and White, which it's called The Elements of Style. It's basically every
That's world
writer's
famous.
Bible.
That's a standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm like, if I'm going to help my writing following, I'm going to just kind of go through the book and just talk about various items in the book. And I did one. It was whether or not you should say Jackie and I or Jackie and me. And what I didn't realize was I was taking sort of a controversial opinion. I was taking a more formal approach to it. And so, I got both a lot of love and a lot of hate. Well, not hate. Honestly, everyone has been super nice on the platform, but, people vehemently disagreeing. And that controversy propelled that TikTok.
So and then you went from it jumped in the next 30 days from 5,000 to 22,000.
Yep. Yep. 22,000.
You
And
must have
then,
that must have knocked you down.
you know what? You are exactly right. When this happened, I was flabbergasted, and suddenly I felt a disproportionate weight of responsibility. Like, wow, now I have to really be careful. And then I'm like, no, just keep doing what you've been doing.
Yeah, but there was
And
there was that. How did you get past that? Because I'm posting on TikTok too because of you. All right, and I had to find. I'll talk a little bit later about my sort of angle with this thing, but you have to do something that has a uniqueness to it, right? But there is that element where you go, oh my gosh, you know, like 2,000 people watched what I just posted.
yeah,
There's like a
yeah,
responsibility that comes with that,
there
You're
is. And
accountable to those people in
yeah,
effect, right?
yeah. You are. And so, well, the thing is this: when I thought about it from that point, because there was an additional reason was that I have had. I'm shy, right? I'm not camera friendly. I was like, I think I can overcome that. This is, of course, pre Zoom calls every day.
Yeah.
And that if I practice, being in front of the camera a little bit and um, doing doing the recording, what I had to decide was I just had to say, okay, you know what? It doesn't make any difference if there's one person who's following me or if it's 22,000. It doesn't make any difference. I'm still posting to be posting because I like to post and it's good for my own growth, let's say.
All right. Well, now, one of the things I'd like to do here is we're talking all around what you're doing. So I just want to
Mm.
show our viewers here what you are doing. Okay. Now, this
Cool.
post that you've shared with me is one that had how many views?
2.3 million.
2.3 million views.
Yeah, the,
Okay.
the post the one that blew up, I think is getting close to 5 million now. But this
Okay.
is this is a little newer. So yeah.
Okay, so to our viewers, just take a look at this so that you know what we're talking about, because this is what Gregg has been doing since that second month, and he's just sort of improving upon it. But here he is.
Here's a good one. Anyway versus anyways. Both of them mean regardless. But use anyway in your writing or speech. Use anyways when you want to sound uneducated.
So that's it. They're usually what? Somewhere between 20 and 40 seconds or so?
My 22 seconds is my sweet spot. 15
That's
to
just
22 seconds. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Okay. So what you're doing there, though, it's apparent to me, and having watched a number of them, obviously, is you've kind of almost go into character.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you have a pipe, sometimes you have a cigar, sometimes you have a little glass of scotch, or, you got your hair kind of done up and all this, and you're wearing
Yeah.
these corduroy jackets sometimes and all that. Where did all that come from?
Well, it came from just simply wanting to change it visually. And at some point around 200,000, I think, TikTok contacted me and said, "Would you like to have your own person, your own rep?" And of course, I said yes. And the guy they gave me said, you could look at expanding on sort of the character, what he perceived me to be, and that's where really the pipe came in. That's where the jackets came in, and I
So
used
now
to
you had
think
sort
that
of this like professional TikTok coach from TikTok.
yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it.
So
Okay.
and so I used to think that it was really important to always be in character. I've seen people blow up that were not, they were doing muscle videos one day, and they were talking as one guy in particular I'm thinking of. He would do workout videos one day, and then he would do his teaching. He's a teacher. He would talk about his teaching the next day, and he's doing really well. So what I've realized was the most important thing is you have to make each video a great video. And it's okay if they fluctuate. Now, I like doing sort of the character thing. It's kind of fun, but I would not say that you have to do that for success. It's what I've done, and it's worked for me.
Like you said, you have, first of all, before I forget, is if people go onto TikTok, how do they find you?
Uh, well, Gregg Hinthorn, but Hinthorn, just my last name, is the. If you go to Gregg Hinthorn, you'll see like one video of me painting. So don't do that. But it's the one just Hinthorn.
All right. So there's his name, Gregg Hinthorn. Okay. But if you go to Hinthorn on TikTok, you will find Greg, and you can sign up and subscribe to him, and you can get these, what do you call them? These lessons that you're giving.
You know what? I think of them as simply being, well, TikToks, but people have really said, you know what, we would like to have more. So I've done like everyone else, started a mailing list, and occasionally send out things to people to encourage them or help them in their writing. For instance, I did a series on emails, which did really well. People are like, oh my, I have to write emails all the time. And what I realized is emails and texting is where every one of us spends a lot of time writing. We don't necessarily spend time writing blog posts. Even fewer spend time writing books. But the writing that we do needs to communicate clearly.
So what kind of like, give me an example of what you a couple of TikToks around sort of emails. Okay. I don't
yeah,
have any to show. Maybe you could just tell me what subject you covered and what advice you gave in your 22 seconds.
yeah. So, and I learned that you have to simply take one point, or 2 points, or 3 points. Don't try to give 7 points in a TikTok, because that's simply too much information. Becomes information overload. So the one about doing filler words, adding things in that don't help the story, or
Okay.
they don't move the plot along with who you're talking to.
Yeah, but we're talking about emails, not talking about stories.
Yeah, yeah. But so the something that moves the conversation forward without having to put things like, how are you doing, when you don't know the person, you don't care how they're doing, little things like that, and that just simply, how to communicate concisely and with the right tone, so you get the best response.
I'll tell you, I think that that's one of the things that I did learn from you, is that whenever I write something now, I go back to it and I think, what can I eliminate? And I start
Yeah,
just chopping things down and get to simple sentences. And I think also in email, one of the things that I learned is every email is like one of your TikToks. It needs to be a one subject, 1 point email. You can't say,
yes, yes.
let's talk about, our meeting, and then let's talk about, where we're going to meet after work.
Yep,
No, those are 2 emails. Okay.
That's 100% right, and
Right.
it's so easy to forget for when you think about it from your own vantage point. But you said something right there that's really important, and when you do when you send you said when I write an email and I go back to the email. What you don't want to do is try to turn on your editor when you're writing the email because you'll just end up with one sentence. So you have to actually write it and then go back to it and then let the pruning begin.
I see. Okay. Well, let's
Yeah.
go back down. Let's go back to the TikTok thing. So at 200,000 people following you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, you had some of these views on a single 22-second TikTok were getting up into, as we saw, into the millions. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Mm-hmm.
you sit there and you say, here I am, my one-man business. I'm an editor. I'm a publisher, right? I help influential people tell their stories, create blogs for them, work with them to flesh them out, keep them accountable. You do all of these things for me. As a one-man show, you get 442,000 or
Yep.
448,000
Yep. That's
followers.
it. Yep. Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you have to start feeding the beast.
You know what? You're exactly right. I look at it as buckets. I have a bucket that is grammar. I have a bucket that's storytelling, and I I do the, I record them beforehand and put them in drafts so that I'm never under the gun. Because I found out if I wake up in the morning and one of my to-do items is make a TikTok and get it out, that's just it's no fun. It's just pressure. It becomes work then. So I'll sit down on a Sunday or a Saturday and then record, 5, 10, and then put them out during the week. And then once I put them out, check them and respond. And it's
No, it's
amazing the
interesting,
level of
but it's
engagement.
interesting. But it's interesting what you're saying there is you're doing it ahead of time. There's an old saying, and maybe it's because I'm last minute Charlie, okay? But there's something I read, and I really think it's a truism, and that is there is no creativity without constraints, right? So if you
Yeah,
got this
that's
sort of
interesting.
unlimited budget, unlimited time, put together a video that's really compelling, you never get there. Okay? But
Yeah.
if I tell you, look, in an hour we're going to publish a video, put it together. It's incredible the focus that you get and the creativity and how it pops up and you get it done. Yet you're saying that you do these things ahead of time. How do you maintain any level of creativity? How do you maintain any kind of discipline to get it done?
So you remind me of one of my favorite quotes: "Nothing focuses the mind like being hung at sunrise." I
I
think
always
that's the
love that one.
difference. I think it's the difference between um, doing it as a passion versus doing it because you're having to meet an external obligation. And for me, social media, TikTok, is a is is a passion. And so when you try to force a passion, at least for me, it's not as fun. The fun part's the engagement, really.
Right.
People responding. So yeah, and
Well,
I
how
got to
many
say, when I was in,
TikToks, how many of these videos do you put in the can each week? And how many do
well,
you publish each week?
so the goal is to do Monday through Friday,
Okay.
one a day.
Wow.
And then usually what happens is once or twice a month I'll record 15.
Okay.
And then I'll spit them out during the week. And occasionally something pops up. Someone asked me a great question in the comments, and then I make a TikTok about that. In fact, the one that you just played, that bubble was actually a question that you can just respond to. You can put their question up on the screen, and then you can see and it notifies them that their question's been answered.
I got it. But
Yeah.
I don't know this one of the things that I learned in creating this blog, okay, and I'm going back 5 years ago. I mean, I would actually lose sleep over the blog. And the reason I lost sleep over it is because it's like you say, it always has to be fed. It
Yeah.
needs new information. It needs new topics that are interesting. I'm always thinking about my audience and what would be interesting to them. I want to put out something that's really beneficial. I don't want to just sort of get something out, right? So you wind up sort of grinding on this stuff. Do you ever get to the point, or have you gotten to, so first of all, how do you come up with the topics, before you actually do the recordings? Is this something that's like on your mind 24/7?
It is that I'm always looking for topics, sort of like, oh, that would be an interesting topic. There are certain, I will often Google things having to do with storytelling, grammar, with writing in general. And I look for nuggets of information that I think are things that sell or that'll get more views. So for instance,
So you actually come up with an idea and go, that's no good.
Oh yeah, all the time. And it usually is when it's too complex. For instance,
okay.
Yeah. So
Give me,
because
give me an example of that one that an idea you came up with that you recently just trashed, and I mean quickly. I'm sure it happens quickly.
Yeah, it happens all the time. The best ones that they told me to do, that my TikTok, he said, keep on doing more of the give me aha moments. Tell me something that I don't know. And by far, the things that do best are the ones that have some sort of hook in them, like Anyway versus Anyways, that one that you played. In other words, that gives me unexpected information. Another one that did really well was Blonde versus Blonde, with an E or without an E. And one's female, one's male, and we don't really think about that, but it's one of those where people went, oh gosh, I never knew that. That little bit of engagement that you grab right there is
that's critical.
Make all the difference.
So it's that you have to have a topic that gets that engagement, that sets people go, oh, you're looking for the right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think it is oftentimes how you present the information, not just the information itself. So if you can present it with a hook, with something that they weren't seeing, they did not see that coming, then you could, for the Blonde versus Blonde, you could just say, there's a blonde with an E and without an E, and one's male and one's female. Well, that's not very interesting when you just simply ask the question, what's the difference between these two? And TikTok allows you to put words on the screen. So you can say, what's the difference? Give people a second to think about it, and then tell them the difference. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And suddenly that becomes, yeah.
But you didn't give me one that came to mind that you trashed.
I let them go so fast. I can't think of them.
You can't even think of one that came up.
No, okay. I can't. Yeah. I mean,
here's the other piece of this. Here's the other piece. So I could come up with a topic of something I'm going to write about. Mm-hmm. And yet I can't think of a great way to kind of introduce it, or to get or a story that's associated with it, whatever, right? So it's a good topic, but I can't seem to get there. You must have some like good ideas, but then you say, well, how do I construct this so that I do get to this surprise ending, if you will? Okay.
So it is, for me, it is doing it so that you ask a question or put the information out there in such a way that the person will say, what is that? Or I didn't know that, in the first 3 seconds, because you have 3 seconds to grab people. After that, you're on your own.
3 seconds.
3. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I think you told me that I have one sentence when I'm writing a blog, right?
Yeah. You have the headline, and then you have that first sentence. So, people will scan it. They'll look at the copy heads, the little headlines throughout the article, and they'll make determinations. But really, you grab me with that first sentence, and then you got me. Then I'll spend the time. Yeah. So
then I know that when you started building this audience and all, I jumped into sort of angel investor mode and startup builder mode, right? And I was like, so what are you going to do with this? How are you going to monetize this thing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The unexpected monetization came when TikTok decided they were going to pay me. They were trying to build out the learning and education fund. So they started saying, you know what, every time you post, we'd like you to post 5 days a week. You can post more, but don't post less. Any 5 days you choose, and we'll pay you. So we're talking thousands, not millions. It's not like Charlie D'Amelio, for instance, is one of the biggest on TikTok. She has 30 million followers. So, but
And what does
so
she
that was
do? Now
unexpected.
that you brought her up, I don't know who she is, or what does she do? I'm not one of her 30 million.
Yeah. So what she does is basically lip sync to dance videos. She basically does dance videos. And she's, like a 20 something kid and does a great job, but she's entertaining. But yeah,
Is she
and that
making
was,
millions? Is she making millions, not thousands?
she's making millions. Yeah,
Really?
literally. Oh yeah. I think I saw she made 11 million last year.
Well, who's paying her $11 million?
Products, so she'll have a, product placement really is what it is. So, and occasionally she just makes flat out ads for things. So
Okay.
yeah, she has
So she has an
a
audience
mark.
of 30 million, and so she's able to pitch products, and people
Yeah.
will pay her to
Yeah.
pitch products. She made $11
Yep.
million.
Yeah.
That's
It's
incredible.
amazing.
Do you think that
Yeah.
there some, if you're thinking I want to make $100,000 on TikTok, okay?
Yep.
What size audience does that take to get to $100,000 on TikTok? Since yours is just thousands and it's a half a million roughly, right, of people,
Mm-hmm.
what would
Mm-hmm.
it take
I have
for really to get out there to where you say, oh, you can make 100 grand if you got that many?
I would okay, this is complete ballparking, but I have a friend who lives up in Kennesaw, and he has 2.5 million, and I would say he is around that mark.
So
He
two
does
and a
it
half
on.
million. There's got to be a tipping
Yeah,
point for real money, you know?
there is, and it's growing too. For instance, it used to be 1 million was the tipping point. That was the real money. But of course, I mean, COVID has been fabulous for people going in, with extra time on
Right.
their hands. What are they doing at home? Go look at TikTok.
Well, you could look at this, you could look at it and say, well, what I want to do is I really want to make my money on TikTok, okay, or in social
Yeah.
media. But the other thing
Hmm.
is to say, I really want to use social media as a means to an end, right? Which is
Yep.
kind of the way I look at it more, is that it's a means to an end. It is good to connect with my audience through TikTok, okay, but it certainly is not something I'm looking to build such a large audience that I'm going to start pitching products, particularly with what I do. All right. But, I said, okay, so you're doing this, you're this
Well,
editor, publisher, and all this. Where do you take it? You're at a half million, and you're kind of like you told me, I think you told me recently, you kind of stalled at a half million,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. So, yeah. So, it's
So
interesting,
what do
Mike.
you? So now you're doing 5 of these things a week. You're posting 5 times a week, and you sit there and you go, you have to have this thought. Why am I doing this? You know.
That's a great question. There's actually two different uh, answers to that. One is that my original reason for joining was to connect my desire to do something new in social media with just simply having a hobby, a passion that I could actually grow. This is sort of like Toastmasters in the era of COVID-19 for me.
Okay.
Um, the other thing is in terms of turning it into something different. So, and I've had people contact me and say, "Would you help?" I'm a writer, or I'm wanting to write a book. I've had a few of those people contact me, but it hasn't been substantive. So, whether or not the age up demographics, I did a survey once of my audience. My average age is often perceived that TikTok is all geared towards teenagers, but my average audience is about 39 to 45 years old.
Which is
So
that's your writer audience. That's who you're trying to
it is.
reach. So you're
It
reaching
is.
your audience.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so hear this. TikTok is serving up this audience to you, Mr. Hobby. Okay, what do you do with that?
Yeah. So
What was your next step to kind of to parse off some of the audience that may be of higher value?
So, I originally tried, I made some pitches to him and said, if you want some help with writing or editing, and it, this wasn't connecting. I don't know if it was my pitch or the people that I was pitching to, because I don't know those people. I mean, I had a handful that stood up and said yes, but this wasn't material. So this year I've started a writing program where I'm encouraging people to write on Medium. I think the more people I get in writing, move towards writing, that is more likely that I'll get people wanting help with writing. So I literally started that the 1st of January. Well, so it's fun. I've got like 60 people signed up.
Well,
And we're all going to,
I'll tell you the formula. I did go to a course on this. Okay. And it seems that the next step really for you is to put together products. In other words, people aren't looking for a publisher. They're not looking for a writing coach, They're looking to become better writers, or they're looking to be held accountable, or they're looking for something. What's the problem that you solve, right? And you find the problem that audience, that's the audience, the piece of the audience of that 500,000, that piece of the audience that has money and the problem, and you build a product. So you productize around it. You say, look, for $99, you get this thing that solves this thing for you. Be a better email writer, in 3 hours with this product, and it's $99. It's like, oh, cool, I'll do that, right? And that's a way to monetize it. Have you thought about doing products?
Well, no, but yes, when you suggested it to me, I did. So, and there is a.
You didn't finish your thought there. I love it.
So, when I thought about it, and I haven't done it yet. And I think this is where something that I initiated as simply a passion, flipping it over into something that I want, that I'm trying to monetize, is something that I struggle with. Because while it would be good to monetize it, I get that. It's like, well, but then am I going to lose my one hobby that really, really was connecting and making it felt like there was
not really that though. Is with you. Is it really that, or is it really you just don't want that? In other words, money's not your motivator. It's not. You say
that's true.
I'm kind of making what I want to make, and I'm doing what I want to do, and I have this opportunity, but that means I'll have to step out of what I'm doing now, okay, and do that, right? And then it will result in more money, but do I really care?
That's well said. Well said. You know me well. And I would say that I am ambivalent, which is probably a nice way of saying not terribly interested, but wouldn't say that forever. And I do think the kind of interaction that I have most enjoyed.
Well, there's all this is sort of past performance is sort of a predictor of future performance,
Yes, that's true.
And I've known you for a long time and say, I might not do this forever. I might actually jump into that. I don't know that that's going to happen. Okay. That would be my outside judgment if I was to invest in you. Okay. In that regard.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
But then it really brings us back to, you've done more with this. Okay. You not only, you're thinking about it a lot. It's sort of become a more all-consuming kind of hobby for you. And you've moved to now encouraging people to write on Medium. Okay. Medium.com, which is another, a writer's publishing. It's a platform for writers to publish on. Okay.
Yep.
That gives you these broader audiences. So you don't have to create your own blog page and all that. And then you have this, you also did YouTubes and interviews. Like how did that all fit in? Tell me about that and when that idea came up.
The YouTube interview thing, the fast-paced growth that I was experienced up to about 400,000. And what's happened which you alluded to, is around 440, 430 is, it just growth really slowed. In fact, what happened was I called my friend who's at 2.5 million. And this is a month or two ago. And I was like, I don't know what the deal is. I'm just not growing. Like I used to grow 2,000 a day, every single day, whether or not I posted. I mean, that was just guaranteed money. And he said, "Oh yeah, this always happens." He goes, "I'm right now losing 2,000 followers a day." But he said, "I'll have a hit." And then he was at about 1.2 million. He's at 2.4 million followers now. He said, "But you know what?" He goes, "The key is you just have to keep posting, and eventually something will hit again. And when you get to a certain size, it's all about the hits. Just like it was from 5,000 to 22,000, it's all about the hits. You post something that's really amazing, suddenly you grow real fast."
I
He said,
see.
"Don't worry about it." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but still,
So
but you're putting an enormous amount of time now. It's like one of the things that happens, and I've learned this at the blog, and I've learned this with the Charlie Paparelli show. Okay, you're constantly coming up with new ideas for the audience, just as I am, and you're constantly investing more and more money and more time, right? And it never ends. I mean, you just come up with like 20 ideas that are things that you can do, but it's not being monetized. So when do you get to the point where it just
well,
stops?
the beauty, I gotta say the beauty of TikTok, since they're only 22-second videos, you can go up to a minute, but I don't. I don't think anyone wants to hear me talk for an entire minute. Is that literally I can record something and move on down the road, and it can take me, 35 seconds,
Yeah,
total.
but
So it's
that's
not going to time.
TikTok. But you're also
Yeah,
you're interviewing authors for your YouTube channel.
yeah, and I tell you what,
That's not
YouTube's
a
a
minute.
different. That is not a minute, and it also is why it's slowed down because
Oh,
we're
okay.
TikTok is all about posting, getting it up there quickly. In fact, I have an external microphone that I plug into my phone to record, and my TikTok rep was like, "No, we don't care about your audio. Your visual should be interesting, but we don't." Hence the pipe and the jacket, but we don't care at all about the audio quality. That's not what people are there for. In fact, the one that you just played, I wasn't using any special microphone. So, whereas on YouTube's algorithm prefers good lighting, good microphone. They actually will. They want to make you to be as close to a TV show as possible. So they're different beasts.
So what happened with that? You said I've slowed that down.
I did, and I'm going to be doing more this year. But
Why did you slow it
it's
down? And then why are you going to do more this year?
Well, fundamentally, I love interviewing and I love talking to people that are passionate about writing.
Okay.
That this whole moving people from not writing the 0 to 1, that's where my sweet spot is. That our work together. It's that moving people from a desire to write to writing, getting that clarity, and then helping them focus that energy on the right audience. I love doing that, and that's what I want to do more of this year.
Well, I
So
think that
now,
you are particularly talented in that area, because I did have back in the late 90s, I did have that desire to write. And of
Mhm.
course, I love what you said is everybody thinks they're a great writer, you know, which I did, of course. I could speak, so I can write, and then writing is just it really was. It's like giving birth when you're trying to write an article, and you get better and better and better at it. But you do need, I couldn't have gotten there without you. I mean, it does take you saying, who are you writing to? Why do they care? Why are you bringing up this other point? That should be a different article. You need to kind of stick to it. Isn't there a story here instead of you just giving me advice? Just asking these questions. And I remember how we would fight with each other, not because of you, but because of you were challenging me and I really wanted to be done with it. But you were challenging me, and you have a way of doing it that it's done at a good pace. You don't try to win the whole war in that article. You kind of push me a little at a time, and I think that's a real gift that you have. So I love how you say taking these people of influence that want to write from 0, meaning no writing, to 1.
Mhm.
If they're serious about writing, if God's called them to do it, you're going to
Yeah.
be a great coach to kind of get them to 1. And then 1 lasts for a good long while, and then you move to 2. And it kind of goes from there.
You know what? And it really is. There's that. The difficulty is that most people can't myself included, we're all bad judge of our own children. They're all beautiful. And when we write something, it's our child. So it takes a stranger to say, that kid just needs braces. So that's always a tough thing. And it is, I've maybe seen one person that could do both really well, but that's
but I think what going back to you instead of who you help is that you have this mission in life. I think you've really nailed it. I take people from that have a desire to write and aren't writing to actually encouraging their desire and get them to be writing. Okay.
Yep.
That is a really important gift. And you've had a tremendous influence on my life because of that. The other thing that you did is, this whole TikTok thing, you investigated. When I saw you do that, I said, well, I've tried social media. I signed up, like when Twitter started, I signed up for Twitter. When Facebook started, I signed up for Facebook. LinkedIn started, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on these things, and then I don't know what to do with them. And I've kind of watched you kick around in this because it's like your hobby. And so the TikTok thing for me turned into like, well, what should I do? And, the obvious thing is, well, you should give entrepreneurs advice, on starting a company or how to raise money or, I could have done any of those things. But what came to mind for me is I said, what would be really unique is what if I pray privately for entrepreneurs? What if I prayed on TikTok? And that's all I do. Is I just get on there and I say, I'm an angel investor who prays for entrepreneurs. Let me pray for you today. And it started that way. And it was these 20 to 40-second prayers. And it came out of my Bible study time and my meditation time. God would give me a word and I would pray for that. That came later. That word came later and how to pray for entrepreneurs. And it started out, I remember I had like 50 followers, then 100, then like 200. I remember when I got to 500, I had that same feeling you got when you got to, I think it was 5,000, you said. That is, oh my God, there's an awful lot of people listening to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, this isn't like random prayer now. I'm like, what do I do now to get serious about this thing? And I just started posting 5 days a week, which is what you told me to do. And it's been a real blessing for me. And I think I'm close to 9,000 now followers, which is just incredible to me, having done this for a few months. It certainly hasn't taken off like yours, but it is prayer. Okay. It's not how to make money advice or how to write better advice. It's just, do you want somebody who knows what you're in the midst of, meaning entrepreneurship and starting a company? Do you want them to pray for you? And that's what I've been doing. So that's, again, because of your influence. So thanks for that.
Yeah. And it is cool to see you're one of many examples of the idea that TikTok is just for kids doing dance videos. It actually has a lot more good content there. Mm-hmm. And the fact that your prayers resonate, in fact, I look at some of your comments and I mean, you're really touching people. There's a level of fulfillment. I have to say of all the TikToks that I did last year and all the views of ranging all over the place, there was one video that I did in the month of December that by far was the most satisfying.
What made it so unique?
So I had someone posted a question and they said, there's not a term in our language for when a parent loses a child. We have divorce, we have widow, but we don't have, is there a term for that? And so I didn't know, but I asked a friend by text who's much smarter than I am. She immediately responded, yeah, there is. In Sanskrit, there is the word viloma. And viloma is, the definition is a parent that's lost a child. The child is vilomed with an ED. And so I made a TikTok about it, posted it, and the number of people in comments saying, I'm sobbing, thank you, this gives me closure. I would never have, I've always wondered what that word was. I'm telling my mother because I lost a sibling. I would say maybe 30 or 40 comments like that. I was moving, and it was there's fun things, and then there's things that move a person, and that moved me.
It's it's interesting that you bring that story up because I've had the same experience. I love the word you use is fulfillment. Okay. Because a lot of times when you're creating content, when I'm creating content and I'm getting it out there and all that, you wonder, uh, is it having any impact? Does anybody ever read it? Does anybody really care? Is it changing anybody's life in a meaningful way? Is it making their life better? And
Mhm.
we live, I think, when you're doing this, it's not like you're getting sort of rave reviews all the time. What every once in a while, you just have somebody very unexpectedly. I could be at a business meeting, I could be at church, I could be on a Zoom call, and somebody just makes a comment and says, "Man, you wrote an article 6 months ago that helped me decide how to raise money more effectively, or you helped me figure out why I was doing what I was doing." I had a writer once. We were in a Bible study, and it was a female, and she said to me, she said, "I really appreciate all that you do and all that you write about." And I was like, "Really?" I said, "Why?" She goes, "You once wrote about how difficult it was for you to write." And she said, "I so connected with that it just gave me the courage to continue on because I was going to quit." And I remember walking out of that room. I was at the Atlanta Tech Village and saying, "God, I had that kind of an impact on her by just sharing my journey, and
Mhm.
where I was and getting intimate with it." And that all comes from, you helping me along with this thing. Again, I give you a lot of credit for that. So, uh, but it is this content thing. Do you ever get to a point, and we'll kind of end with this, but do you get to a point where you say, "I've done this long enough.
You
I've
know,
kind of I've invested a lot. I've got a whole library of this stuff. Let me like for me, package it up in a book, call it a day. Okay, move on." I see bloggers that were daily bloggers, they just stop. Or I see bloggers that take 3 months off. And you know what? They come back and within a short time, they're gone. All
mhm.
right. So you got to just keep going. So what keeps you going?
That is a fabulous question, particularly because I'm not right now experiencing the same growth that I was. So what keeps me going? What Before I started posting, I said I would really like to get an audience that would enjoy the kind of things that I enjoy and would give me positive feedback. That would be a fun thing to do, but I don't know what it was because my Instagram wasn't going anywhere. And social media audience is like driving in a car with AC. As soon as you turn off the AC, you get warm again. So you have to continually feed it and put stuff out there. And
But
what
what
I've
keeps
come
you
to,
going?
it is the feedback, the comments particularly,
Hmm.
with the audience. It is that engagement. In fact, one of the things people will say is, "Well, I don't like looking at that. That's a waste of time to look at the comments." And to that, I say, you're not in it for the long term because you have to care about your audience for your audience to care about you. Fundamentally, whether you're writing or whether you're posting on social or whatever it is, if you're not as invested as the other party is invested, then it's a one-way relationship, and those relationships don't last.
And I think you're hitting on exactly as I asked that question, I was trying to answer it myself as I'm listening to you answer the question. And really it does. It comes down to not me thinking about, do I have something of value for this audience? But instead saying, I care about this audience. So I need to be thinking about entrepreneurs. For me, it's entrepreneur. I need to be thinking about entrepreneurs. And if I'm thinking about entrepreneurs, something's going to come out from my 40 years in entrepreneurship and angel investing, some story that's going to have impact for some subset of that group. if I just wait for that magic moment of this great idea that I'm going to, they become few and far between, because I'm more concerned about how I look and what people think of me versus thinking about those entrepreneurs and how I might be able to help them, just like you spend your life thinking about these people with a great desire to write and stories bottled up in them, and how can I help them get it out? You know?
You're 100% right. If you don't because we don't know what connects, just like the one that I posted that connected early on and picked up a bunch of followers overnight. When you wait for the hits, you inevitably don't choose hits, because there was one weekend I spent all weekend on a 8-second video because I thought it was going to be amazing, and it completely bombed. It was like I like redid it. I put music behind it. I had special effects going on. I mean, I just but it is when you say, okay, here's my audience, and I'm going to talk to them and serve them. That's when you will connect.
And I'll tell you, the hardest thing to do in being a writer, or being someone who's preying on TikTok, or being someone who's trying to help writers, is transparency. It's sharing yourself. I mean, the thought of writing a book. I was once talking to a lady friend of mine who ran an advertising agency, and this was probably 20 years ago. And she's since left town, and we're not really in touch. But she had a huge impact on me because she wrote a nonfiction book about advertising, and she told me over lunch that she wanted to write a novel. And I said, well, you're such a great writer. I said, I'm sure you have a great story in you to write this novel. And she said, yeah, but she said, I'm not ready to do it. I said, why not? She says, I'm not ready to share that much of myself. And I never forgot that. And now I'm sort of thinking about, or really trying to commit to writing this book for myself. And I'm thinking, how much am I willing to share? But that's where the impact is, you know.
It really is. It's that transparency that makes all the difference.
Gosh, it's something else. And I think that if you're doing that, and whether it be on social media or anything else, when you share that from the heart, like you're talking about the parents that lost children, right? I mean, that connection was just absolutely incredible. So, Gregg, this has been a lot of fun. You know, you do have a lot, and congratulations on your TikTok channel at Hinthorn. That has 400 and how many you got? 442 or something?
Yep.
It's
442.
It's a lot of people. And to share a video with us that had 2.4 million views, you know, I mean, you're Johnny Carson now, you know, that's pretty crazy. All right. But, let me just sign off now. Thank you for coming. You know, you really have invested in our community here, and I think that you're going to be helping a lot of people. Some that want to start their own social media channel where they make money from the channel. But I think that you've shared that you don't need to do that. It could be a means to an end, but there are rules that need to be followed. And the first rule and most important rule that I'm pulling from this is you really have to authentically care, or maybe even love your audience. And if you do that, they're going to feel it, and they're going to follow you, and it's going to work. So thanks, Gregg, for being here.
Thanks,
so
Charlie.
To all of you folks, to all of you who have joined the Charlie Paparelli Show, thank you so much. Again, subscribe at paparelli.com, and you'll never miss a show as we go forward. In the meantime, remember, we're entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs, and together we'll always be stronger. Thanks for attending.